Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Truth About Marketing. Super pumped to have my buddy Robert Cardiff with me today. He's the co-founder of Laundry Sauce, which is a designer laundry detergent, also known as the world's best smelling laundry detergent. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Colin, super pumped to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me. I look forward to jumping into some of the questions you got about laundry sauce and then diving into marketing.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, you guys are one of the fastest growing CPG brands out today. Tell us a little bit more about Laundry Sauce, how you got started, and what it's all about.
Yeah, man. Laundry sauce has just been a rocket ship. I think it's kind of like what we dreamed of, but it's actually happening. And the business was built like fundamentally like on like a very strategic approach. We wanted to disrupt the boring industry. And I mean, I don't know what's more boring than laundry, right? So you got the Tide, you got the Gain, and you got like the other boring brands, but like nobody's doing what Liquid Death is doing for the laundry industry.
Right.
And so about 3 years ago, me and my two business partners, we were like, look, it's a consumable product. Nobody's really selling it online. How do we make an amazing brand? And we came up with Laundry Sauce. And Laundry Sauce, it actually, the name comes from a meme. And it basically says you're an idiot if you call laundry detergent. It's sauce, right? So that's where the whole idea came from. But we wanted to build a brand that was consumable product and that we could build an iconic brand around.
That's awesome. So that's good background, but we always start this whole thing off with a little bit of a lightning round. So, I ask you about 7 questions. We just rip through them. Don't think too hard about it. Just shoot from the hip. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, perfect. So first one, favorite marketing technology?
Triple whale. Look at it every day.
Nice. Favorite social channel?
Pornhub for sure. No, just kidding. Instagram.
Yeah, there you go. Least favorite social channel?
Snapchat.
Brand or person with good marketing?
Herbal essences circa 90s. But a brand
that's actually really good.
Yeah, but today, Liquid Death, like hands down.
Okay, perfect. Brand with bad marketing or needs help with marketing, if you will.
Just any brand that uses politics to prop it up. Straight up.
Good. Favorite influencer or business leader?
President Trump, baby.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then brand or person you'd like to work with the most?
Probably Richard Branson. From a businessman perspective, just love everything about him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Super cool. One of our friends that we had on the show actually before, Jamie McFadden, she worked for Virgin and had the opportunity to do some like ads and things with him, which was pretty cool. So she said he's an awesome dude.
I just want to go to Necker Island and hang out. Just, can I get an invite? Like, let's go.
You and everybody else, brother. I think that's like you've made it if you end up on that island. So cool. So let's get back into it. Let's talk a little bit more. So, you said it was kind of a rocket ship. You guys just got going a couple years ago. Let's talk about that growth and how that happened. So like when you were getting going, there's a lot of people out here that like are listening to these snippets of this show and they have an idea or they have something that they've always wanted to do, but they can just never get it going. So talk a little bit about like how you even built that rocket ship and then how you got it to take off.
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, I mean, in hindsight, I look back and the first thing I would do before starting any business is to put a financial plan together. Like, don't start an entity, don't build a brand. It's like, do the unit economics make sense? It's like, and most people are talking about the brand and the products they want to do and like, the idea that they have, but they don't want to build a financial model to say, can we even make money from this business? So that's like the first thing.
Right.
So we did do that, but and but we had no idea, because a lot of times, like when you're building a financial model, you just like put a bunch of assumptions in there, and you hope that they're legit. So we
Right.
ended up doing that, and we built a model, and we've matured quite a bit. But we were like, well, if these assumptions work, then this could be pretty scalable. Um, and then
Right.
from there, it was the idea. It's like, well, how do we go? How do we execute? And one of my buddies asked me, he's just like, how are you going to differentiate? Like, how is your product going to be different? And it seems like such a simple question, but it was like, oh shit, we don't really know. Right? So it was like,
Yeah.
how is your product defensible? How is your brand defensible? And so we really had to dig in, like, how are we different? And every business should be.
Well, I think you bring up a good, yeah, I think you bring up a good point there. Like, and it's not just in the product, right? It's because you brought up liquid death earlier. It's water, right? Like, but their brand is what is defensible. Their brand is what. So I think what's interesting about laundry sauce, like you said, it's historically boring, right? And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that really don't care about scents or this or that. They just want their laundry to be clean. But you build a brand around that. Now there's people that are going, actually, I think maybe it is important to me what my clothes smell like. Like, maybe it is. So like now you get people that start to want to take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So like I was just talking to one of our investors about this. He's just like, when you're raising venture funding, like the thing that a venture funding partner is going to ask is like, what's defensible? Like, what am I investing in? You know, and if your products made from a contract manufacturer, your differentiators like aren't patented, if you don't have any product, or manufacturing capabilities that are defensible, then it should be your brand. Your brand needs to be defensible. And so, from the get go, our whole thing is like, how do we reinvent a laundry experience with an incredible brand? And so
Yeah.
it's like you have to have amazing brand aesthetic, but then also like, what's your brand voice? And like, thinking through that whole thing and making sure that not only like do you have a good idea of like your brand voice and your brand visual, but like every partner you work with understands exactly how to communicate that brand. But you look at like a liquid death, and you're like, they're selling water. It's like that you can't really differentiate with water. Like they have a can, but their brand is what makes it $1 billion brand that all these VCs have invested in, because like that is
Yeah.
hard to replicate.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that, right? So when you were getting going, I mean, these are companies that are getting, millions and or billions of dollars investment, depending on the industry or whatever it is. But I think that's another thing that people want to understand a little bit more about is kind of what's the process when you're getting going. Like, some people don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to start with. They don't have seed money. So like, how do you go about getting operating funds or bringing people in? Because I know something that's kind of unique about you guys, right, is that you haven't gone the VC route. So you've funded, but it's been people that friends, family. So talk a little bit about that.
Dudes are underserved in the laundry category. Like, everybody just assumes that women do that. And shout out to women, like men should be doing laundry too, just putting that out there. But, and we were like, we looked at Dr. Squatch, and we were like, okay, Dr. Squatch sells bars of soap for like $9 a bar to guys. And so our hypothesis was, well, we will serve the male market and basically get them excited about doing laundry and to kind of reinvent that experience. And naturally we found over time is that like 50% of our buyers are women and 50% of our buyers are men. And so like
Right.
our brand has evolved from like, very male focus to more gender neutral. At first it was like three dudes and a brand. And then like it slowly matured to a more gender neutral brand that like is feels very luxury and upscale.
Yep.
So that there's like a lot there to unpack, but specifically on fundraising, you know, we okay, so like the basic thing is like when you're first getting started, if you've done those things, you really believe you have an idea, it's like the first thing you go to is friends and family, right?
Yep.
It's just like, you talk to your family, like, do they want to invest? You talk to your closest friends, your aunts and uncles, you talk to your network, and we're really fortunate that I personally invested quite a bit, and so did my business partners. But then we had pretty broad networks, and we were able to go and kind of paint the vision of it. But we had like a very specific tipping point that allowed us to raise money. We had come up with the idea, and originally we were like, oh, we're just gonna, source some laundry pods in China, and we're gonna get them shipped over in a month. Like I remember we came up with the idea in like February, and originally we thought we were gonna launch um in like April or May, right? So
Mhm.
unrealistic. And then as we were like getting product samples from China, we were like, well, what kind of chemicals are in this product? And like, does it clean your clothes? And like, what's the different? How is it different than Tide or Gain or any of those things? And so we were super lucky
Yep.
to stumble across like a technical advisor. This gentleman is now like an equity partner. We think of him as a co-founder. His nickname internally is our mad scientist because you
Nice.
know and he's just like, no, like developing laundry detergent is very complicated. It's got to clean your clothes in cold water, warm water. How do you test against different types of stains? And how biodegradable is it? And like, so it's like our minds were like blown when we realized like how complicated
That's
of a product we picked.
and that's funny too because like I think there's also people that have a ton of ideas out there that it could be in any industry, it could be any product, service, whatever. And there's this intimidation factor of like, oh, I have this super cool idea, but I know nothing about how to make the actual product. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a so like while you have this business brain or this super cool idea, like that's only like 10% of it, right? 90% is like the execution. It's like, all right, I gotta make the product, take it to market, make sales, customer service, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my advice for anybody that has an idea that like doesn't really know much about that industry is like get online and find an expert. Like you can pay a consultant in that specific industry like $500 to $1,000 an hour and ask them questions. What we ended up doing is we
Yep.
found somebody and we paid them for a 3 month consulting engagement to get like an hour a week of their time to just like validate like what we're doing. And that turned into like a more formal engagement, and then now he's one of our co-founding partners. So yeah,
Yeah.
like first things first is like just trying to go execute is the hardest part, and so find experts that can help you. So from
Mhm.
there it was
Yeah.
like
No, definitely.
uh, so from there we the real tipping point was like, how do you bring the vision of your idea to life? And so we were lucky enough to meet a marketing agency called Raindrop. And they at the time we were based in San Diego. Raindrop is in San Diego, and what Raindrop is known for, I think they had like the number one performing YouTube ad in 2020. And we had some mutual connections, and we were like telling them about our business idea, and they were like, oh, interesting. And they're the brand or the agency that did the top of funnel assets, creative assets for Dr. Squatch. They've done a bunch
Oh,
of other
okay. Nice.
Native, Manscaped, and just a bunch of other brands. And so we told them about the idea, and they were like obsessed with it. And so we ended up like paying them to do a top of funnel asset. We invested quite a bit. Like we invested like 40 grand in this asset. So for like we had never sold any product. We had, we had just we were self-funding at that point, and we're like, but if we create like a high dollar creative asset that tells the story of laundry sauce, that will help us go raise funding and then like bring the vision to life.
And then once you've kind of figured that out or got them on board, right? I mean, obviously it's a huge risk. Like you said, that's 40 grand. That's a lot of money right off top. But what they were able to help you produce as far as, interest or leads or, sales, even all the way through a funnel, if you will. Um, did you guys have to, as far as like catching up, or were you ready operationally to just fill all these orders, or like what was the consideration there? Because I know nobody thinks about that, right? It's like, hey, we're just trying to get this off the ground, like we hope to make a few sales, but I know obviously you guys had some pretty massive success pretty quickly. So what did that look like on the impact of hey, this marketing effort kind of transitioned or transformed our whole operational effort?
Yeah. So basically, we got connected to a domain expert, and then we ended up investing in that marketing creative. And so we got started with the idea in I think it was February of 2020, and we didn't launch until
Mm-hmm.
October of 2021. So
Oh wow.
it took us like almost a year and 8 months to get to a point where we had a product that we could sell. It took forever to develop the product, just because it's a complex product. I mean, it's a chemical in a laundry pod, and but during that time, like we were building the brand, we were doing all the product development and testing, and we were creating these marketing assets. And so we basically self funded it and had some friends and family funding. And in that first 9 months, and then we created this marketing asset with Raindrop, and it was like January through March of 2021, we were able to leverage those assets to help sell the vision of the company to not so much our friends and family, but like more of like qualified investors that were in our network. And I think we
Mm.
raised like a couple $1 million. And again, we hadn't even started selling any product yet. So,
Wow.
it for us, like we took a big gamble. All the people that invested in us took a big gamble. But at the end of the day, we went back to our original idea of saying everybody has to do their laundry. The laundry
Yeah.
industry is super old and boring, and nobody is really created a brand that excites people in the laundry space. And so like that's what we held to.
Right.
We're like, if we can do that in this boring category, we could potentially reinvent the laundry experience. So we ended up
Yeah.
launching October 2021. And the first, I would say, like 3 months, 2 months were pretty tough. You always want to figure out like how much is it going to cost you to acquire a customer, right? And CPA. And
Yeah.
at first it was like super high. And we're like, oh man, like was our financial model like completely off? Which, we were ready for, but we're like, you got to figure out like those unit economics have to make sense, or you got to like, cut and figure out another route. So we ended up,
Yeah.
getting through our first Thanksgiving, and it was like we had no idea what we were doing. We were just like, hey, we'll give like a small discount for Black Friday, and see where our sales are. And I think like we'd maybe done like it was like $60,000 in the first like 2 months of business,
Mhm.
and then it was January 2022. We like 2x that in 1 month. So
Wow.
we
And
ended up doing.
what was the catalyst for that?
We really just got the formula right. So what we ended up doing was we had these creative assets from Raindrop, and we got user generated content, and we did mashups, and then we got an agency to help us with media buying, and we were able to like test which assets were performing with which groups. And it took about 60 days of testing to figure out like what assets resonate with what group. And then it was like a shotgun just went off January. And we weren't quite expecting that. And so we in February we ran out of inventory. We only had one
Wow.
product SKU with two variants. It was our laundry sauce, laundry detergent pods with Siberian pine or Australian sandalwood, which are two fragrances. Every box comes with 69
Mhm.
pods, wink, wink, three guys creating a brand. And
Nice.
we ran out of inventory because we were so fired up about how fast we were, that month of January was going, that we were like, keep spending ad spend, keep spending ad spend on Facebook and Instagram and Google. And so we just like pedal the metal, and we didn't realize, oh shit, like we're out of inventory. So we had to pull back all ad spend. Like the idea is like you have ad spend and you're running it, and like the model's learning, and it gets more efficient. Well, when you spend a bunch of money and then you have to like pull back, it basically signals that the creative assets aren't working properly. And so then come back, March, once we had inventory back in stock, we had to like rebuild the efficiency of our advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, good problem to have, right? It's a lot better than people who just can't figure out that formula to get the algorithm to work with them. But talk a little bit more too. I mean, so ad spend's one thing, but clearly, influencers work. You've had some people work with you that are obviously kind of high profile. Talk a little bit about that. I won't spoil that surprise for you.
Yeah, we were super fortunate to run, get connected to a guy named Scott Eastwood. And Scott Eastwood is, a Hollywood actor. He's super cool guy. And he actually invested in laundry sauce. And kind of while we're going through that process, he invested this past summer. And we were super pumped about it. And he was like, hey, look, like, I love your brand. I'd love to talk about like what some type of like, influencer marketing engagement looks like with you guys. And up to that point, like we hadn't
Yeah.
really done, any celebrities, any influencers, like we have an affiliate marketing program that drives quite a bit of revenue for us, but we really hadn't tapped into like any influencer marketing, especially not celebrity marketing.
Mhm.
So, we still work with Raindrop Marketing. You know, big shout out to them. They create some of the most amazing creative assets. Like they've had Super Bowl commercials. We've spent a significant amount of money with them, um, and so like we were going through this whole creative process for our next top of funnel asset. And top of funnel assets, like you're hopefully you're spending quite a bit of money on that. Like you've got like paid actors in there, and the whole idea is to build audiences with these top of funnel assets. And then as you build these audiences, those audiences you're having other content like user generated content or like specific like solution selling content to get to a point where you're converting them to a sale and hopefully a
Yeah.
lifetime. But we're going through this process. Like it was probably like June of this year, and we had this campaign idea called public service announcement, and the whole idea was one of our number one reviews that we got from one of our customers that we were using in some of our static ads was, oh my god, laundry sauce is effing amazing. And so like
Yeah.
literally that was like what they wrote in the review, like, oh my god, laundry sauce is effing amazing. And so we like took that and then like we repurposed it as a static ad, and it was performing really well. So we're like, let's just like do a whole top of funnel asset around like, hey, public service announcement, like beware, like this shit is really amazing. So if you don't want like an
Right.
amazing life, like don't buy laundry sauce.
Yeah.
And so
100%. And I love it. I loved the whole concept. I mean, the asset that was created with Scott is phenomenal.
I mean, having a professional actor be in one of our assets, it was huge. One, like I think every single girl in the world thinks he's gorgeous. I mean, he's a great looking guy, um, but he's also really good at his craft. So like he was able to like jump in on this like PSA campaign asset. We've been telling him about it. He's like, yeah, like I think that aligns, and it just slapped. It was just like
Yeah.
so good. I mean, his look was like perfect for our brand. It's just like, it, we want to be aspirational, you know, so he's great looking, but he's also approachable because he's like a surf guy. And so we ended up doing the asset, and you never know if like a top of funnel asset's gonna perform or not. But it
Yeah.
was funny. We were with him a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about like what are the next assets we're gonna be. And he's like, oh, like we were talking about how well it performed. You know, we got a lot of
Mhm.
feedback. He's like, and he was telling us that like he had so many people in his network reach out to him and tell him like that was one of the best ads I've ever seen. And so like you kind of know
Whoa.
how well an asset's doing when like people in your network are starting to reach out to you and say like, oh, like I haven't talked to you in a while, but like I saw this and it's really good. And then
Yeah.
the absolute icing on the cake was Scott was like he was out somewhere, and you know he's super famous. He's got like 5 million followers on Instagram, like uh you know, been in a bunch of movies, and somebody ran into him like I think it's like a month ago or something, and they're like, "Hey, you're that guy from Laundry Sauce ad." And he was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I know I mean, he's really humble. So, but he, you know, he's Scott Eastwood. And he's like, "Yes, like I am in that ad."
That's great. I love that so much. I mean, honestly, though, it gives you that feel of, Dollar Shave Club, like kind of those where it's like they're obviously Scott's famous and everything, but like the execution of it was just so well done. Like the one liners, the just ability to like really grab your attention and keep it the whole time. Like I'm not, I'm in marketing and have done advertising, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, it's so easy for me to just quickly go, okay, I get it, okay, and like not want to watch something or to just kind of I understand where it's coming from, like on the most basic level. But like watching your guys' stuff, I was like, they nailed this. So like, shout out again to whoever the Raindrop plus Scott plus you guys for all bringing this together because it's a fantastic ad.
Oh man, we were so pumped about like how it performed and how it all came together. So, you know, I think what we proved out is that like, you know, influencers can work, celebrity influencers. They have to be the right influencer. Like again, it all goes back to
Yeah.
like what's your brand, what's your brand voice, like how does that align? And our brand's always been kind of an interesting one because we want to like, you know, be refined and you know make sure people understand like how good our product is, you know, like we use high end fragrance, like you know something that you know you ingredients you'd find in like Le Labo or Tom Ford, you know, and then like the cleaning power is amazing.
Yeah.
So how do you have that, how do you have a luxury brand but then also be like super witty and humorous and like flirt the line of, you know, oh, that was like kind of inappropriate, but like also really witty and funny. And so like
Mhm.
that's a balance that we've been trying to dance around. And you know, I think Scott helped us like pull that all together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's incredible. And then talk a bit more about, so now you've had that success, you're in a good spot, you kind of got everything working for you. How do you plan to continue that success and keep up with that growth, right? Now, luckily, again, you're not at the mercy of a VC. You're not at somebody that's like trying to force you to like, hey, we need exponential growth and to keep it going. Because I see a lot of companies, especially like in tech, they start to drop the ball or fumble or lose like quality of product or quality of service or something because they have all this pressure to just keep that exponential growth path going. So for you, talk about, kind of what your plans are, especially we're just about to head into the new year, like for growth, for acceleration, expansion, whether it's geography or product line, like what are you guys kind of thinking for laundry sauce?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we think of this year like as, you know, in 2023 is a year that like we've proved that like, you know, people love our brand. And so like our goal this year from a brand perspective is to like double down and like focus on making our current customers uh, even happier. So like, you know, the thing that comes to my mind a lot and we talk about internally is like, you know, we want to be like Liquid Death or Dr. Squatch or and when I say that, it's like their customers are obsessed with them. And
Mm-hmm.
and one indication of that is that like when people get laundry sauce, they share it on their social media. Like they're sharing
Yeah.
the fact that they're getting laundry sauce in the mail on their social media. So we have a laundry product that is traditionally very boring, but we are making it
Mhm.
so exciting that people are sharing it. And so we really want to like lean into just creating more moments for people to share. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to continue to develop amazing fragrances and incorporate those into all of our products. And so we give all of our customers, our current customer base, like new opportunities to try these amazing fragrances. And so every quarter we're going to be likely launching a new fragrance. Um, we are going to double down on our efforts with Scott Eastwood, just to to make sure that we're uh, having that brand alignment with our celebrity influencer, and then potentially find the right fit for like a female celebrity influencer. So that'll be really good. Our goal is to continue to like develop products that are aligned with our product category, but also expand further into the home. We don't look at ourselves as a laundry detergent company. We look at ourselves as a fragrance company. And so, with that being
Okay.
said, like, we can come out with different products like hand soaps and lotions, and like, bring that amazing fragrance that like, your whole laundry room smells, amazing when you open up the dryer to the rest of the house. So we launched candles in November. People are obsessed with those, and we'll continue to develop like great products that people buy.
Yeah, I mean, my head spins from a marketing perspective. Again, you think about like, the men and women version of being, liking the fragrance, and like you said, I know we talked about it before. A lot of women love men's fragrance smell. Like they love, even, they like to wear boys' clothes. They like to, so like they're marketable too in this whole thing, right? Like just whether it's they like to their clothes to smell sometimes like a guy's cologne or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many avenues you can go. And like you said, if you find like the right female spokesperson, like celebrity, they could play super well with Scott as well. Then next thing you know, you got a collab ad. Like there's a lot you guys can do, which is really exciting, right? Like when you're able to get those creative juices flowing, and it's like we could go a million different ways with this. That's so much fun because there are other brands or other things where you get stuck and you have like that writer's block or creator block. Like that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, so okay, kind of go back to like building out the brand and like what marketing should be about. In my experiences, and there's probably other viewpoints, your marketing should entertain people, right? So like you have your
Mm-hmm.
brand, and then you like have like your actual marketing efforts, like your funnel. And you asked earlier, like what are brands that like I'm excited about, and what are brands that aren't great. Like I think the thing that separates good brands and bad brands, or brands that like brand campaigns that do really well, is like, are people entertained? And so like
Mm-hmm.
everybody at Super Bowl is like just on the edge of their seat. Like, what are the commercials that are come out? Because like everybody's like, all these companies do all these like big campaigns, and like, a lot of them are like quite funny, or they're quite entertaining, or they're heartfelt. Like, and so, you look at, again, I feel like being a dead horse here, but like Liquid Death, like their whole thing is like entertaining. I mean, some of their commercials are ridiculous,
Yeah.
so ridiculous that I want to share them with my friends. And so this year, as we go into the 2024, like our focus with our marketing creative is like, how do we entertain? How are we witty? How are we aligned with our brand? But ultimately, it's like we want to be a brand that when people see us pop up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, um, and Twitter, and all the social channels, that like their like laundry sauce is gonna something's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like,
No.
marketing perspective, like we're doubling down on consistent high value creative that entertains.
And something you talked about earlier, I think that affords you the ability to do that is that it's not a serious like product where you have to take it super seriously, and for many years nobody has, right? So like water with Liquid Death, right? you could be as crazy as off the walls it is. It's almost an ironic thing because it's like nobody thinks that water's that interesting. So let's make it interesting, right?
Yeah.
And with laundry sauce, you know, like you said, it's laundry detergent, but like who knows? Like you guys could be the pioneers of making laundry fun again, or you know, like doing something where it's like I know there's this one meme we were just sharing it the other day with my wife. Like it was like it was somebody was talking about a life hack about what to do to make sure that you get all your laundry done, and it was like put all your laundry on your bed, right? Well, then the meme was like, oh yeah, we do that, and then they just go and get in bed with the laundry on top of their legs, like because everybody does that. They throw their laundry on their bed. They're like, oh yeah, I'll get to it, and then they don't do it, right?
Yeah, it
But
just
there's
sits
this
there,
whole like,
kind of like use it as a
yeah,
blanket, you know? Yeah,
exactly.
I
So
mean,
there's this whole green area for you guys to go ahead and take advantage of stuff like that, you know?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do, and you know, I think the thing that we've done differently than you know a lot of brands is like from day one, like, and we just didn't even. It was kind of unconscious. Is like we invested in good creative, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. Like you can go like write up a script, and you know cameras are so good on phones nowadays. It's like you can just film it and then like you know pay somebody to edit or edit yourself. But it's just like, is that stuff that you're filming entertaining? And is it
Yeah,
like, you know, do you have top of funnel, middle of funnel, and then, you know, converting creative? And so like when you're first starting
yeah,
a brand, it's just like, how are you bringing the brand to life with creative? And I think we've invested a lot in doing that. And then this next year, we're going to focus on that, but make sure it's like we're consistently turning out great creative, like every month, right? So that we're
yeah.
constantly have new assets to entertain people, communicate, you know, the different products we're coming out with, communicate how we're different, how we're better, like, you know, our product performs. And so that like, you know, people when they learn about laundry sauce, they want to stay engaged with laundry sauce, and you know, they become obsessed with our brand.
Yeah, one thing I think that's important, like you're talking about creative, talking about entertaining, but I think one piece that people are very curious about or I get asked about a lot is like, well, where should I go? Where should I be marketing this stuff, right? So like it's the channels, is it indoors, is it outdoors, is it digital, is it social media, is it and I think the de facto today is always social media because people spend so much time on social media. But talk a little bit about identifying your like ideal customer profile, ICP, if you will, and then figuring out how to get to them.
Yeah, I mean, first off, like you know, coming up with a hypothesis, you know, and it's like your hypothesis could be completely wrong, but like you come up with a hypothesis of like we think this type of customer will buy this based on, you know, some type of data, right? Like you know, other brands, you know, your personal experience, you know, whatever it is. And so then once you have a hypothesis, then you can go test it. Um,
Mhm.
when like where we're at right now, you know, we're looking at like television ads, we're looking at media partnerships, so like you know ad placements on different newsletters. You know, we're advertising on Twitter and TikTok, and you know we're kind of like we have quite a breadth of advertising going on. But when we first got started, it was just Facebook and Google. And so it's like, you know, and those are channels, specifically Facebook, that you can go get a lot of data very quickly. Um, and so that's where I would start. Now, you know, or, you know, depending on like your product, like Amazon's a really good place to start. You know, we haven't really talked a lot about Amazon. You know, but you know, it's a great way to have a channel that's profitable a lot of times. You know, it's fairly easy to set up and manage. You know, but it's the reason. So we have like we had a specific strategy on like when we wanted to launch Amazon. We launched in July, but you
Mhm.
know, I'd say like have creative. You know, leverage Facebook and Google to launch on, and then you know you potentially don't even need to like have the product to launch. Like figure out ways to test your hypothesis, your target demographic, you know, by setting up a landing page, you know, go out, make a cheap, you know, creative asset and then like drive traffic to that landing page, with that product, and figure out what your conversion rate is.
Well, that's what's funny is Liquid Death, if you know the whole backstory, they didn't even have a product. They did it as a joke. Like they made up the Facebook page and they made up an ad as a joke.
So
And then all of a sudden it caught fire and they were like, wait, we might actually have to produce this. And then there was one same thing, the guy Fat Jewish, right? The like social media handle. He had done a joking like they were gonna do rad like baby products, right? Where it was like designer baby stuff and like it was supposed to be a big joke. But then there was such high demand for it that he was like, well, screw it. Let's just make it. Right. So, like, that's actually a really, really, not to say that that's always going to work or that, like, oh, that's a surefire way to do it. But, like, if you have a great idea and you're just not really ready to pull that trigger, like, that's an absolutely fantastic way to see if the market will respond to what you're offering.
yeah, I mean, I was just talking to my buddy 2 nights ago. Had him over for dinner, and he's a serial entrepreneur, and we were talking about like different business ideas. And he brought up a really good point that resonated. And he goes, "What can you do to like, test your business idea before ever actually going all the way in down the funnel of like starting that business?" So like the specific
Mm-hmm.
business that we were talking about was like RV storages, and if you do an RV storage, like, however much that's going to cost, like millions of dollars to like, buy the property and, pour the cement and put all the gates and all that stuff. He's like, well, how do you test
Yeah.
the demand of that property? Or how do you rethink, that whole business idea? Like, why don't you just drive leads to all the people that own RV storage? So my point of telling that story is just like, think outside the box. And if you have an idea and you want to test it, and you believe in that idea, take $5,000, go create an asset, set up a landing page, have a designer mock up that product, and then drive traffic to that. And then when somebody clicks add to cart and they go to check out, you can just say, hey, this product is coming soon. And then
Right.
you start to have all these emails that, so when you do launch that product, you've got like, a couple thousand emails.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really, for me, I'm super passionate about just business ideas. Like you said, you toss a business around with friends, like just trying to figure out ways. To me, there's just no one, the thing I love about it is that there's just no one way to do anything. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no like path to success. Like, you see all these memes and things like that where the path is, whatever. But that's
Yeah, it's
really what's
crazy.
cool about it is everybody has their own story. Yeah. But they all have their own story. They all have their own founder story or creator story or, so that's always been an awesome thing to me. Is there anything else like about the laundry sauce story or your guys' kind of creation story that we haven't covered, or anything else you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I think this is something that'll resonate with like everybody. Like, it's not all just like easy, right? And like, there's a lot of founders, that listen to your podcast, and you know, like we talk about all the good stuff, like what's working, what's not working. Like, oh, bringing on like a celebrity influencer like Scott Eastwood, like trying to create amazing content, but like, what happens when you run out of money? What happens when you run out of inventory? Like, those things are going to come up. And like, as an entrepreneur, like we're all in this together, it's just like, that's what you're signing up for. It's like, but at the end of the day, the risk is worth the reward, and we all just got to tell our stories, and hopefully that helps the next entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and also too, I mean, I'm always an open door, open book. Like I'm sure Robert, if people wanted to reach out to you, obviously you're on Instagram, they can get your email, whatever. I think that's a big part of it too, right? Is just being able to like lean on each other in the community and like to your point, sometimes yes, for product specific or something that's like really you need an expert. Yeah, sometimes you can pay those people, but there's also just like networking groups or people that you can find as like mentors. I think that's really important too. Just finding people who, at the end of the day, maybe I go ask somebody, I just started this kind of TV segment thing that I'm doing. It's like, hey, maybe I want to reach out to people who are currently TV hosts, right? And like they're really good on TV, and I'm just kind of starting to do that. Well, the flip side is like, hey, they're really good TV hosts, but they're not great marketers. So, maybe I can help them, they can help me. And now we have a thing that there's not really money being exchanged, but we're both providing each other value, right? That's what I encourage people all the time. I'm like, think about that a little bit. What can you offer and what do you need in return, right?
Yeah, I mean, I well said. Finding a mentor or multiple mentors like is a life hack that everybody should do. And like I've got a
Okay.
handful of mentors for different areas that I call on a regular basis and just say like, hey, I'm thinking through this or that. Like, what's your guidance or feedback? And it doesn't have to be weird. You don't have to say, hey, I'd really like you to be my mentor. Like, don't make it awkward and weird. Just build up rapport and reach out to them, when you need something, but then also look for ways to provide them value.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think at the end of the day, there's not anything wrong with recognizing that you don't know what you don't know, right? They always say like, hey, the smartest people in the world know that they barely know anything, right? Like, and that just means that you recognize kind of like what your strengths and weaknesses are. You know where you need to fill gaps, and you go do that. So, um, yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I know I grilled you or asked questions for like close to an hour. So, is there anything else that you want to ask me?
I mean, you mentioned TV segment. Like, tell me more about that. Like that sounds exciting. So what's just drop what you're doing there.
Yeah. So I just started. I'm actually. Thank you for mentioning it. So it's gonna be. I'm filming on in New York City. We're working with companies that want to do kind of a paid media partnerships, and it allows them to get predictable media. So the idea that hey, if you're trying to get on Fox Business or Bloomberg or some of these bigger networks and really tell your story or make announcements, whatever it might be, historically it's really hard to get earned media, right? So like somebody on those networks take interest in your story and randomly just ask you to be a guest on their show. So this new segment that I'm doing, Moneymakers, it provides people an opportunity to have predictable media where they pay some money for the partnership, but then we bring them on, we do an interview, we can get them time on a billboard in Times Square. Incredible visibility,
Wow.
allows them to kind of tell their story, yeah, on a bigger setting. And then like this week is the first airing of the show, so it'll be on Saturday on Bloomberg, and then airs again on Monday on Fox Business. So really excited about it. We got a few cool companies, Jernique, Los Magos, and Ria, all amazing companies with great stories. I had a blast doing it. So yes, if anybody's interested in that kind of thing, would love to talk more, potentially have you on as a guest. But yeah, super stoked for it.
Man, that's really exciting, man. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on today. So thank you. Yeah, for everybody out there, if you want to try laundry sauce, just hit me up, and I'll make that happen for you. But yeah, thanks for your time today, Colin, and I'm excited to watch your new show.
Yeah, and so where can people find you? What's the Instagram handle for everybody?
Yeah, so Instagram handle is at laundry sauce, and then the website is laundrysauce.com. We're also available on Amazon.
Perfect. Right on, man. Well, one last important thing. I got to give a shout out to High Level, incredible software platform that we use for our company and for managing this podcast. So big shout out to them. There's a link in this video and a link in my bio if you want to give it a try. Huge shout out there. Again, Robert, thank you for coming and joining us on Truth About Marketing. We'll look forward to talking to you soon, my man.
Thank you.